SNOWTRAX is sponsored by Ski-Doo Snowmobiles, Yamaha, revs your heart, MBRP Performance Exhaust, built for the victory lap, and by iPone Lubricants, exclusively distributed by Parts Canada.
Adding parts to your sled to make it work where you want, how you want, is the reason that the aftermarket industry is alive and well. And today I've got two different sleds with bolt-ons from Kimpex that are going to change how each one works for the owners. The first sled I've got is the Ski-Doo GSX, a comfortable trail touring sled. However, the owner of this snowmobile uses it to get in and out of her remote cabin, and that's why she's installed Pilot DS skis on it. Now, the Pilot DS ski works great to give her all that added flotation, but there's an issue. Pilot DS skis are terrible when you get them into parking lots trying to get gas or when navigating the driveway at the local lunch stop. And rightly so. Pilot DS skis were never meant to be a trail ski. So to change the way that they work, we're going to install Kimpex Rouski Gen 3 retractable wheels. In the past, these wheels were designed for just trail skis, but you can now get the Rouskis for just about anything, including the Pilot DS. They're easy to install and will give the owner the confidence of navigating parking lots and driveways, but still keeping the flotation and abilities of the DS ski. Now, operating the Rouski is super simple. All you have to do is lift up on the ski tip and rotate the actuator arm. The wheels are 3-position adjustable to allow you to set the proper ride height that you prefer. Once you have your wheels set, it's pretty simple to get underway. Driving is effortless on hard surfaces from cement to plowed driveways, and when you're ready to convert back to your carbides, all you do is rock the sled left and right to allow the tension spring to release the wheels back to their stowed position. It's quick, easy, and they really do work well. Not to mention, they save your carbides and your garage floor. Now, I told you that I have two sleds, and this is the second, an Indy EVO. It's an awesome snowmobile, but the owners are looking for a little bit more steering precision, as well as less darting for the young riders who use it. While the stock skis on the EVO are pretty decent, it's designed for a price point, and with a little upgrade in this department, we can take the EVO from decent steering to precise steering and reduce darting for the younger riders who use it. And to do this, I opted for some help again from the folks at Kimpex. Kimpex sells a lot of different skis, but they also have their own lineup of injection molded skis like this, the Rush. It's 5.5 inches wide, and it's designed at reducing a whole lot of things: darting, weight, and steering effort. Claiming to be the lightest ski on the market at just 4 pounds per side, the Rush is very light, but what makes the Rush impressive is its strangely shaped keel design that has a large flared initial section and then tapers off narrower towards the back. This design cuts a fresh patch into the trail and then relieves tension further back into the keel, where the narrower portion has room to freely move from the large flared path created. While this does sound like a lot, it's the results of this design that make the Rush ski instantly noticeable when you get out on the trail. The Rush delivers on what it says. The Rush ski that we ordered for our EVO is a full kit, and it includes the ski, handle, mount, and carbides with a 60-degree profile. They're very reasonably priced and come in a wide variety of colors to match or accent your sled. And while we put these on a smaller stature sled for newer riders, the Rush is a great choice for any level of rider looking for reduced steering effort and reduced darting. I know the younger riders who enjoy this sled throughout the winter will appreciate the upgrade. That will help build their confidence and keep them growing in their love for snowmobiling. No matter what sled you buy, it's probably not going to do everything that you ask of it in its stock form. And that's why we have folks like Kimpex who make great aftermarket accessories to keep us going no matter where the trail leads.
SNOWTRAX is sponsored by Hercules Tire. Ride in our strength.
SNOWTRAX has a lot of really great partners, but one of our best partners is Ontario Tourism. And I love riding in Ontario. So having a partner like Ontario Tourism is really just a huge benefit for me because I get to go ride where I love to ride. But definitely my favorite place to ride in Ontario is Northern Ontario. Trails are unreal up here, literally unreal. They called us up this year and said, hey, we got a story plan for you guys. We want you to come up and highlight the trails riding out of Hearst. So I was actually very excited to go up and check out the trails around Hearst and then traveling a little bit further south from Hearst. So it was a really exciting opportunity. And of course, if I'm gonna go up and ride in Northern Ontario, I'm gonna call up my buddy Stefan because him and I have been best friends for, I don't know, as long as I can remember, and we ride together every weekend. So if I go on a trip like this, I wanna bring somebody I know I'm gonna have a good time with. I know that they can ride and I know that we're gonna have fun. And Stefan is that guy.
So I've known Luke for many years. You know, we grew up together as kids. And so as growing up, we had the privilege of going snowmobiling together ever since we first got our snowmobile licenses when we were 12. And then now being able to go on these travel trips with SNOWTRAX TV. So I've been on several trips over the years. They're always a lot of fun and we always have a great time, lots of laughs. And we get to do the thing that we both really love doing, and that's snowmobiling. So I've heard of Hearst before from just a few people that have been up here, but really I didn't quite know what to expect. Once we got up here, it was cool to experience the culture and the people.
We were staying at a location for our first night called the Villa Inn and Suites, and it was a great first night. When we woke up in the morning, first thing we did was head out to the parking lot and unload our sleds, and we met up with our guide, Pat Dubreuil, and he was gonna take us from Hearst. First day was around Hearst, and then we were gonna travel south towards Dubreuilville, and that was gonna be the end of our trip. So we met up with Pat. He's a great guy. The guy knows the area like the back of his hand, and he can ride a sled. So again, very important that the people we ride with know how to ride because we like to have fun.
I've been involved with organized snowmobiling probably since the age of 22. You know, got involved in bringing in the funds, supporting the club and whatnot, and just moved up the ladder all the way to being the vice president of the OFSC. You know, I think organized snowmobiling is a good way for Northern Ontario to generate economic impact. And that's one of the reasons, you know, I always say this as a joke, but, you know, a snowmobiler can only carry his wallet. And from a business perspective, you know, if we cater to that snowmobiler, we provide him with everything that he needs, food, accommodations, gas, and tools and extra parts. Then we've got a very captive client who is happy that he's being catered to. And I think that's what's important.
Pat told us about the trails, how they're pretty open, wide open, pretty fast. Lots of straight sections. The trails around Hearst aren't what I would call tight, twisty trails. They have turns. It's not that they're all just like straightaway, 90 straightaway, but the corners that are on them are mostly high-speed sweepers, which is really, really fun. You can put on a ton of miles in no time at all. And initially we were told, you know, your day's gonna be like 160 kilometers. And I thought, oh man, how am I supposed to film a TV show and ride 160 kilometers in a day? At the end of the day, we'd ridden 180 kilometers and finished a TV show. So apparently you can put on miles fast.
And the trails there were awesome, like really wide, straight and flat. The trails were super smooth, so you could put on a ton of miles in no time. You know, like you just had a smile on your face the whole time while you were doing it. And just being able to, you know, squeeze that throttle, you know, you just get that, you know, feeling inside where it's just happiness.
I had a lot of fun. I could see the smile on Stefan's face right through his helmet. He was having a ton of fun. Pat was having a great time. So our first day riding around Hearst, again, we put on like 180K in one day. It was nuts. Really, if that's what you're gonna drive 9-10 hours for, and you're gonna get that kind of experience, 100% worth it. We ended the day at, I would say, kind of a famous Northern Ontario destination called the Companion, and that's another hotel in Hearst. They have a heated garage that you can keep your sleds in overnight, so they're nice and warm. It was awesome, and that was wrap day one. Had an awesome day, great time with great people, great friends, met some new people, and of course put on huge miles, and that's what we came here for.
SNOWTRAX is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
So our ride for day two was going to take us from Hearst to the town of Hornepayne. And now I've heard of Hornepayne before, of course, because this is snowmobile country and I'm in the snowmobile industry, but I'd never even looked up Hornepayne on a map, let alone been there.
Really, like, I've heard the name, but I've never, you know, didn't really know what to expect. So anyways, as we were going down the trail, like I said, Hearst was flat and fairly straight, but as we started getting closer to Hornepayne, the terrain changed. It started to get, you know, more elevation, more hills, a lot more turns, twists, you know, so it was kind of cool to transition from the fast running trails to the more technical, you know, windy, hilly trails.
Rode this wicked trail that was just up and down, like it was super, super fun. And then the trails changed quite drastically, actually, partway through the day, where all of a sudden they were a little bit tighter and much more twisty, sort of in trees, whereas in Hearst it's much more open. There's way fewer trees while you're riding around. And it just became a whole different riding experience. So in one trip, we'd already had two different experiences, which is really neat. The trip is about 150 to 60 kilometers. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you can do that in no time at all.
As we made our way from Hearst towards Hornepayne, you started to see the landscape kind of change. That's because we're hitting the Cambrian Shield, and now we're getting into the rocky stuff that's closer to Lake Superior. So as you get closer to Lake Superior, more snow, more height, more elevation, more rocky terrain, and that's where you start seeing, you know, the ups and downs and the nice and twisties and stuff like that, but still with a very wide trail. So I think that's great. You know, people can get a little bit of a mix of everything. So there's some fast running, some technical running, just overall good, clean running.
So it was nice to have that variety. Then once we arrived to our destination in Hornepayne, we were staying at the Riverside Cabins.
Was a really great place to stop in Hornepayne. Hornepayne's a very small place, so there isn't like a hotel. You're basically looking at smaller lodging experiences, and the Riverside Cabins was quaint, it was a log cabin, it was clean, it had all the things that you need, and we kind of chilled out for the night, put our feet up, had a beer, talked about the trip, talked about the day and the day before, and went to bed ready for another day the next morning.
SNOWTRAX has been sponsored by Polaris, think outside. Yamaha, revs your heart. The regions of Quebec by the sea. Discover our ride ideas. FXR Racing, maximum versatility for all conditions. And by Arctic Cat Snowmobiles.
The third day of riding was going to take us from Hornepayne into Dubreuilville, and I've been to Dubreuilville before. Actually, the last time I was in Northern Ontario was with my buddy Tanner, and we went from Wawa to Dubreuilville, so I'd been here before and knew what to expect, but Stefan never had, so it was kind of going to be interesting to see his thoughts and hear his thoughts on town of Dubreuilville. What I didn't know about Dubreuilville, though, before we got there was the history of the town, and it turns out that Pat is sort of like the czar of Dubreuilville. Like, his family started the town, they built the town.
And I'm actually third generation, so the town was founded by my grandfather and his three brothers back in 1961, so not that long ago. And it's a small town, about 1,000 population, 1,000 residents. But now it's in exploding mode because of the mining activity that's going on. And we have about 1,300 people basically living in camps now around the town. So we're hustling and bustling, and it's going really well.
The trail from Hornepayne to Dubreuilville was, again, kind of a mix of the previous 2 days. There was some open sections, really fast running sections. There was some tighter sections, which made it a lot of fun. Riding trails that are just flat all the time can get pretty tedious. In this case, we got the fun of the flat trails on day one. We got some elevation changes on day 2 and 3 to keep things interesting. And again, the trails were just impeccable. And that's something I've learned about Northern Ontario after having been here as many times as I have. You rarely ever come up here and experience bad trails. If you do, it's because the groomer broke, not because they weren't trying to groom the trails.
Tons of snow up here. Trails were really well groomed. Again, you had the nice, tight twisty, and then there was a bunch of sections that were nice and straight. So you really have the variety, and I think that's what Northern Ontario, has to offer is you're not just riding always the same kind of type of trail. You have a vast variety.
Saw some really pretty scenery, some rivers we were riding along the side of, some previously logged areas that were just kind of cool, open with, sparse trees in them. Just really different terrain from the previous days. This again was about a 160-kilometer day, and it went by in no time.
Snowmobiling is a great economic generator. And I think that if we cater properly to the snowmobiler, the snowmobile mentality is that everybody's trying to loop. Everybody's trying to go from one destination to the next destination. Nobody wants to ride out of a community for 3-4 days. So, if we understand that the snowmobiler wants to reach these different destinations, we need to open this up for them and kind of plan for it. So, have the facilities be ready, have an exchange system, because in Northern Ontario, we want to know that our clients, what time they left and then what time we should expect them, because that's one of the things from a safety perspective. Most of my clients, we tell them, give us a call before you leave Hearst. So we should expect you by 5. If you're not in by 8 or 7, we're going to go look for you, right? So that's part of the service. It's part of that partnership that we have with our clients. I'm not saying you have to do this. It's just that extra layer of just making sure that everybody rides safe and everybody arrives at their destination.
We pulled into Dubreuilville. We pulled into the Relay Magpie, which is actually Pat's business. He owns it, and it's one of those other Northern Ontario places that just everybody knows the Magpie. When you come up here, this is the place to stay. When you're going to Dubreuilville, you're staying at the Magpie. That's just how it works. It was just the perfect way to end this trip. We put on, well, I guess it's just over 400 kilometers in 3 days, which is spectacular. This was a record for me, a number of kilometers during an actual travel story. So that speaks a lot to the area and how good the trails are and how fast you can put on miles. Again, hanging out with Stefan, that's what makes these trips. And I always say this to people, that snowmobiling isn't about snowmobiling, it's about people. That's why I love doing this. I love riding snowmobiles, there's no question, but the real reason I do it is because I love the people that I meet and the places that I go and the new friends that I make, and I love hanging out with old friends like Stefan and making memories, putting on miles. And we've experienced a bunch of places in Northern Ontario that I either haven't been to in years or have never been to at all. And now when people ask me about Northern Ontario, I have more recommendations I can make of great places to go and ride and stay.
being up here in Northern Ontario, I'm thoroughly impressed. You know, I am impressed with, again, the quality of the trails and the diversity of the trails too. And also just the atmosphere of Northern Ontario. You have all of these, you know, accommodations, and the people there are super friendly. They cater to snowmobilers. They want to make sure that you had a good time, that, you know, you're having fun and that you're comfortable. And snowmobilers, that's what snowmobilers want. They want to have good experiences when they come up to places like this, so that way they go home, they tell their friends, they tell their family, and then they plan, you know, when is next year's trip going to be. I'm going to come back for sure, and I'm really glad that I made the time to come up here and have this experience.
If it's not on your list, if it hasn't been on your list, or if you've never been here, put it on. But if it is on your list, if you've been here before, come back and ride it again. There's so much more to do here than just one ride. There's so many more loops and trails and sections that you probably didn't hit to come back and experience again. And I mean, I'll come back in a heartbeat.